So welcome to our 143rd episode under Lterature Series. And today I'm so excited that we have with us Sharada Subramanium. She's much talented and accomplished author of the book, Unforgettable Leadership Experiences are traced with 25 world leaders. Wow, that's amazing, Sharada. In fact, your book, Unforgettable Leadership Experiences, is a compilation of leadership lessons drawn from your own personal interactions with 25 world leaders from the field of politics, acting, hospitality, everywhere. I mean, sports, spirituality, culture. You've really put all this together. To briefly introduce Sharada to my viewers, she's a former civil servant, a certified leadership coach, wellness and yoga instructor. She, in fact, belonged to the Indian Audit and Account Service offices and served in some very, very important positions as a senior civil servant. So please take on from there. I'd like to know from you about you more.
Thank you, Neeta. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this lovely podcast of yours. And it's really amazing that you've done 142 episodes and I'm the 143rd guest. It's not easy to, consistently work on podcasts. And I know it because I have worked in that space. So I must congratulate you on the wonderful work. And it's an honor to be here. Yeah, you already did kind of introduce me. I have been a civil servant, worked for more than 28 years with Government of India. And I was very, very honored and privileged to work in some very, very prestigious assignments, both with Government of India, the Parliament of India, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, as well as the Karnataka government, where I was secretary with the Governor of Karnataka. So because of the kind of postings I held, I was, and I think many civil servants are, it's not as if I'm the only one, but we are all exposed to leadership at a very close quarters, especially political leadership. But when you work in a high dignitary office like the governors, you tend to interact with leaders from different walks of society. So most of the experiences, in fact, all my life I've been talking and narrating stories about my meetings with different personalities, and none of these meetings had any political tones to it. It was basically about a very, very personal one-to-one interaction and what I picked up from that particular person. So I used to narrate these at common drawing room conversations and things like that. And then somebody suggested to me that why don't you, in fact, it was my coach, Nitesh Gavade, who was with whom I worked for some time, who gave me the suggestion that you should now put it into a book because, there's so many people who can benefit from it. So I said, all right, I was not very sure if people would be interested, but it took me a lot of time to select the leaders. Having worked with the Governor's Office, Parliament of India, the Coffee Board of India, the Comptroller and Auditor General. So there was a vast number of people that I would meet. And I didn't know whether I could do justice to everybody. There have been some very important omissions. But the whole idea was because it was a Karnataka centric. So some of the, obviously the, like Kiran Mazumdar and Sudha Murthy. So you do find a little bit of a bias towards people resident or kind of connected with Bangalore. But the whole idea was that I share these stories more as leadership lessons. So I call them unforgettable leadership experiences, but each of these experiences is a learning lesson. So that's the whole idea behind the book, Neeta.
Absolutely. And I must tell everyone, she's being very humble, but another side is that she's also done her MBA from IIM Bangalore, and apart from so many other degrees, including one from LSR. And I think you have a very important role in the Alumni Association of Lady Shriram. How do you find time? How do you find time to be able to do justice to so many roles that you have right now in your pocket? I mean, I know you personally, and I feel that
yes, Neeta.
You've been contributing a lot. You've been working a lot for education, for spirituality, for wellness, and then among all these roles, you've also written a wonderful book which I've really enjoyed, and I'm recommending everyone to kind of really buy and write a review and talk about it. It makes a lot of difference. It made a lot of difference to me. I mean, there's some very, very simple nuggets in the book which you can really incorporate and buy and kind of carry it forward. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I see. The first thing that I thought of was make it very simple and conversational. So that was essential,
Yeah.
because the whole idea was that it be kept as approachable and everyone should identify with it. It's not something which I should kind of keep as exclusive to myself, because none of the lessons were directed to me, or the conversations didn't actually were not a one to as if they were talking to me and giving me lessons. So that was the whole idea behind the book. How do I find the time? I think, I mean, you're the absolute, the person I should be actually emulating, because I do know you also wear many hats. And I think most of us women have this uncanny ability to wear different hats and, enjoy all of them. And I think as long as you enjoy what you're doing, you can do any number of things. We enjoy being mothers, we enjoy being homemakers as well, we enjoy being professionals. And I think at some point in life, you reach a stage, in Hindu spirituality, since I do follow a lot of the Vedantic learnings, you do come to a point which is the Vanaprastha stage, approximately around 60, but I think from the 50s it starts coming in. You begin to realize that, your life also has to have some meaning beyond your immediate contacts and your immediate family. And that's when you start thinking that somewhere you should impact society, you should give back, you should kind of justify whatever you have been fortunate to receive in terms of education, in terms of experience, in terms of degrees or whatever it is. So that is when I felt, and my philosophy has always been that I hate the word busy. Somehow I feel this, a lot of people use I'm very busy. And the funny thing is, can't stand it when WhatsApp statuses say very busy, don't call. Why do you have a WhatsApp number if you don't want anyone to call you and
Just
connect with
message,
you?
don't call.
Yeah, I have a phone and I'm on WhatsApp, but don't call me, don't interact with me. It's a
I
very,
can
very
understand.
rude way of, yeah. So I think people who use this word busy often, and I keep telling this especially to my yoga class, which I have every morning, I keep telling them never use the word busy, remove it from your vocabulary, because, it's busy is just the biggest excuse in the world. And nobody can be busy 24/7. Nobody can be. I know there have been times when, for example, when there was president's rule in Karnataka, we used to have, I used to have two phones ringing at the same time, and there were lots of meetings going on. But you're still not busy enough to reject or not call back somebody at least maybe a next day or sometime. So I believe in that philosophy. And I think any woman who, or any man or any human being who wants to excel, especially once you reach our age, you realize how little time there is. Time is literally fleeting, flying by. And if you
Absolutely.
don't if you don't make the best of every moment that's given to you, and work that extra hour or put in that little extra bit without trying to think that you're busy, because if you say you are busy, everything will make you feel busy and tired. And I think the first thing that happens when you say I'm busy is you feel tired and you want to go to sleep. And that's a very tamasic kind of behavior. A true sattvic person who's supposed to, we are all supposed to, in Hindu, in the Sanatan Dharma philosophy, you're all supposed to live as much as possible in sattva. So sattva is a state of wakefulness, a state of calm, a state of peace, but also a state of achievement. So that's where I want to, at least I'm striving to be. That I can't succeed always, but I'm trying. And I think many of us, professional women who have families as well, that's how we do it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to learn from you. Only yesterday I was trying to remember how time flies. Already we are into May and this year just started. So we have to make the best of each and every moment that we have.
Absolutely.
Coming back to your book, and all 25 chapters are really interesting. I'll go back to the 25th and I'll begin with one of my favorite chapters from your book on Amir Khan. This is one
Okay.
book I really like because I like him as a person and he's quite emotionally involved, very, very, very down to the earth. In fact, the way he presented the case of pharmaceutical company that you mentioned when you were there in the governor's office. And so how was your experience meeting him? I know, and what do you think is a hallmark for a successful person like him? So what is that? We all know he's a perfectionist. We all know that even besides as an actor, in everything that he does is like a lot of work, a lot of study hours he gives, a lot of, we know about him, how he is as a character. So what was so different about him that you thought about putting him in this book and talking about him and your meeting?
Yeah, actually, Amir Khan was an absolute accident. I was working in Parliament those
All
days.
right, I was going to correct
We
myself.
worked on the parliamentary committee was working on, the generic pharma drugs, and
Yeah.
we were trying to work
Mhm.
on how, pharmaceutical companies are kind of pricing their products high, and doctors and the medical fraternity are being forced to kind of prescribe only the branded drugs, and generic makers are kind of left out. So it was a longish kind of suggestion, and we had spoken to the ministry. We had put out an advertisement in the papers. Whoever is interested can come in. And lo and behold, out of the blue,
Yeah.
the makers of Satyameva Jayate came,
Yeah.
sent us a letter, an email, and said that Amir Khan would like to come, and he would. It wasn't us who approached him, but he who approached us. So it was of course, as all of us are. I think our generation, we grew up with Amir Khan being this sensational, right from Kayamat Se Kayamat to year after year, he has excelled himself in so many different roles, playing so many different characters. So I think a lot of us, in any case, have that little fangirl moment. So when I knew that he was coming, obviously it was a little bit of trepidation, because you are working in a formal
Mm.
parliament kind of setup where you have a lot of protocols and a lot of, rules to observe. So we had to obviously be as officious as possible and reply with a very straight face and tell him that these are the kind of do's and don'ts, and that nothing special will be done. But of course, we knew that the entire parliament staff and everybody would be dying to meet him. So we'll have to kind of receive him and usher him into the hall without getting him distracted here and there. So those kind of logistics we looked at. And I was not really very sure whether we thought he would just come to add star value, and that the doctors and the other professionals, experts who were accompanying him would do most of the talking.
Yeah.
So he came, he sat down. We had a very formal, there are 15 MPs from the leaders, ruling party, as well as the opposition. Those were the Congress government days. And we all sat across. And as joint secretary, I sit next to the chairman. So because I'm supposed to kind of take down the notes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he was right across us on the table, the other side. He sat and he took the mic and he spoke from his heart. And
Yeah.
when somebody speaks with their heart and speaks with passion, you understand that this is something he genuinely believed in. So when he conducted that series of Satyameva Jayate, it wasn't just an actor or just an anchor, doing something for money, but it was, an individual working with a very, very concerned human being, working for a certain cause with a certain passion and belief in that cause and that commitment. And like you said, Amir had shown that commitment all through. And so this meeting also went off in a very surprisingly wonderful way. And we did really had very little inputs to be taken. Of course, he was very, very correct to kind of hand over the mic to the concerned experts when it was to talk about any medical stuff. He immediately handed it over. So that was again a very great leadership quality I found, that you use your star power, but you are a leader in a sense, but you are also using your power to reach out for causes, to bring out certain issues which people may not normally, unless and until celebrities associate themselves with such causes, the general public doesn't even care about them. So it's very essential. And health is something that impacts and affects every one of us. None of us can really, and all of us can do with cheaper and more accessible medical care. So this was something which was a real revelation, and therefore I kind of put him on the group, because I was a little susceptible, I kind of in two moods whether I should include a film star of this kind of, because it was just a chance of meeting that I'd had. It wasn't as if I was but then I sat for 2 hours, 2.5 hours in a meeting, and post that meeting, we thought he'd rush away in his limousine, but he just walked with us across to the dining hall, sat and ate the very simple parliament. We have a parliament dining hall where standardized meals are served for all MPs, and he sat with us, ate that, conversed with everyone, took photographs with everyone, from the security staff to the sweeping staff, to everybody. So so he retained his star power and his charm over the general public, but he also was able to hold his fort in a very, very formal environment, which can, unnerve many. I've seen so many senior bureaucrats who come and talk in parliament and are very, very nervous and very, very, they are quite unable to express themselves properly. And I myself have been on that other side where we have been called to parliamentary delegations and we've been really, getting nervous and worried and preparing like day and night just to meet the parliamentarians. So parliamentary committees can be pretty daunting even for a seasoned bureaucrat. So here's someone who's totally unfamiliar with the government process, and he
Protocol.
came in.
Yeah.
So it was somebody who really impressed me a lot, and so I thought I should put that also, because people should know that leaders are not just leaders who are very obvious. You are a leader in so many ways, and anywhere, if you are able to touch somebody's life, or you're able to support somebody's cause, or you're able to change somebody's life, you become a leader. So that was
I
the
must,
whole idea.
I must tell everyone all these 25 stories, and I'm sure she must have had a really hard work shortlisting. I mean, you've met so many people. And I think the best part is that when you tell a story, when you talk about your encounter, and in the end, you're giving those 3, 4 pointers from the story that what are the leadership qualities that you need to learn from all these people. I mean, that is amazing. So 25 stories, perhaps maybe into 4, around 100, 150 leadership pointers you have given. So that is the best part of the book. I mean, it's not only you're starstruck and you're meeting somebody. I mean, you've met everybody more or less. You've covered the wide genre, but I love that part in the book wherein you have synopsized, you put in kind of a synopsis those 4, 3 leadership qualities in each one of them, which really impressed you. And that was a taking, you were like an observer, but you still were noting down, oh, this is going to benefit. I mean, later on you thought about writing a book, but yes, this is
Yes.
benefiting each and every one of us quite a lot.
Absolutely.
Coming
I
back,
must say that just
yeah,
to butt in, sorry, I'm butting in. There
no,
are a couple of leaders who are leaders whom I met when I was a little child,
yeah,
because my father was also in government service and was chief secretary in a state. So Jay Prakash Narayan, for example, or Indira Gandhi, they're all meetings as a child. But then, sometimes even a child, when they meet some force, especially I remember as a young girl in Delhi meeting somebody like Indira Gandhi, her aura, the way she walked and she crossed us all, and, the kind of speech she made, it kind of touched us. And as women, we felt we all can be leaders, we all can do the same thing. So I think the early inspirations to leadership and to emulating big leaders comes from very, very early childhood experiences. So that was something which I thought I should share, even though it was not official. I mean, it wasn't part of my official meetings, but I thought this was also a chance encounter which deserved to be mentioned.
I know you were quite a little child when you kind of, I won't
Yes.
say exactly meet, but yes, observed
Yes,
Indira Gandhi
observed.
very, very closely. But coming to Sonia Gandhi, I think you met her. So what really different thing that you noticed about her? I mean, there is so much of an aura about her which we don't really know about. I mean, we think she's always at a distance, but you were there with her for some time. So how did
Yeah,
you
I think
feel?
her
How,
distance is
how did
very,
she come
very.
across as a leader?
See, I let me be frank. I'm not one of her admirers. I never was, but she was a mystery. She was always an enigma, and
Mhm.
she was a guest at the Raj Bhavan. She was the
Yes.
governor's, and the governor being from the Congress party, who had recently come from being law minister. He had been posted as governor, so he was very keen to impress her, and he was also very keen not to upset her. So because she had a little bit of a difference with him, which is why he was not included in the ministry and sent here.
Yeah.
So he was very cautious, and he had told us, don't go anywhere near her. I will handle her. So we were being very, very distant and just very formal. And none of us really wanted to also, because we had already heard about her, very, very private kind of image, and the fact that she never really wanted people to walk into her personal space. So we kept a distance. But at midnight, I got this call, and
Yeah.
the SPG says, she's calling you. And here I had just woken up from sleep, and I was really nervous because I had no idea and
Mm.
had no interaction with the lady. And so I went in, and the SPG just stood outside and said, you have to wait right here. Unka wafadar, there's one helper who comes, attendant who's been with the family for many, many decades.
Wow.
Only he is allowed inside her private chambers. So only when he comes out will you be given a chance to go in. So I kept standing outside the corridor, with the police falas, the SPG officers standing outside waiting for this person to come out. Then when he came out, he just took me in and just, I was expecting her to be sitting in the drawing room. There was it's a presidential suite that she was sitting in, that she was accommodated in. But no, he took me in and then through the dining hall right into her bedroom. And then he stood outside the bedroom and he says, Andar jaiye. So he asked me to go in. So I was even more nervous because it was 12:30 in the night and the room was very, very dark. It wasn't really well lit. So I was more worried because of that. I walk in and she's sitting at her desk with this light. But the thing that struck me was it was a small encounter. She only asked me about a sari, about what she should
Weather
wear and
also.
weather of Mysore, that kind of thing. But what impressed me is 12:30 at night, this lady who was at that time the most powerful woman in India, running the government virtually behind the scenes, uh, taking such meticulous care over, A, she was sitting with a whole set of notes about the next day's program. B, she was no fuss bun on her head and a house coat, those old fashioned house coat kind of a dress with glasses on, and she was kind of working on the table, and she just peered through her glasses at me and asked these questions, gave a smile and said thank you. And here she's going through such meticulous detail on
Yeah.
what has to be done. And I think even the way she kept her privacy, because she could have been attacked in so many ways had she not done that. She came from nowhere, she came from a foreign country. Yet she did marry into the big family, but she really could manage to kind of, her silence and her privacy helped her through those 10 years that she kind of ruled India. So that is something I thought I should include, because I didn't want it to become a political thing, but I thought since this was something that people would be interested in knowing, also because she's so secretive and
Enigmatic.
people don't really know her, that enigmatic role that she keeps in public. People would want someone who has kind of had a chance to peek into it, and luckily, because I'm outside of government now, I can afford to share that point and tell you this is what happened. And it was a good learning. I mean, I did learn from even that.
Yes.
So you do learn how to be meticulous, how to think of even your clothes for the next day, which is something we rarely do. What color should I wear? What material should it be? So plan for everything. So I think that's a
It
good
is
thing for a
learning.
leader, especially if you're very busy and you've got 100 engagements. Because once you become a leader, you do have a little bit of a time constraint. So you've got to be well planned.
Yeah, I think that's a very important lesson. But coming to Prime Minister Modi, whom you met in 2013, just 6 months before the very important elections, and you have some very fond memories. And definitely, I mean, the way he conducts himself, the way he talks to everyone, the way he is totally up to date. So I think
Yes.
your fondness for his leadership and him as a person came through in the chapter. Would you like to kind of speak about it?
I don't know if I should say fondness, but I'm a complete admiration and in awe of the person that he is, the amount of work he's able to do, and single-handedly, he the only leader I have seen in my 28 years of government who does a politician, as bureaucrats, we normally consider politicians as, unless and until there are five bureaucrats around them handing them notes and all, most politicians are unable to conduct meetings or speak extempore without the support of some presentation, some secretary, some joint secretary who has to kind of buffer in and give all the details. Here was a man sitting on at 9 a.m. on a Diwali day, which is like the biggest, we know how it is in Gujarat, with the whole secretariat absent, chief minister sitting without a paraphernalia, no secretaries, sitting alone, a chief minister who's been 10 years or 15-year chief minister. He was in his 15th year as chief minister in Gujarat, single-handedly meeting 15 MPs from different parties and holding fort on the agricultural exports policy of Gujarat,
Amen.
reeling off statistics, numbers, figures, talking sense, saying why should Gujarat produce rice and wheat? Gujarat's soil and Gujarat's climate is suited for this kind. We should only be producing these kind of cash crops. Let the Punjabs and the Haryanas produce wheat. Let the Orissas. So he was, frankly talking. Let the Andhras and the rice basins produce rice. Let us all have this kind of a synergy between states so that agricultural exports, because Gujarat is a state of cash crops, let us only focus on agricultural export. फिर he just stood up, took us to a model of these, irrigation system where uske upar all the canals had these solar panels. He had put solar panels and covered the canals, so both evaporation also got reduced and you also could generate solar power. So this was something that was a real innovation of his, and he was so passionate. He lifted the model, picked it up, showed us things. You don't expect a chief minister to do such things. And when a parliamentary committee comes, you have chief ministers fawning over them, showering them with gifts and lunches, and getting all kinds of presentations from all kinds of bureaucrats. But to have somebody who sits in a professional way, short speech, only Diwali day, one small sweet given, and that's it, with one little Gandhi bust. That was it. No fawning over MPs, no trying to please them. Hard facts, with every fact on the tips of his fingers. I was amazed. I was totally overwhelmed. I had not seen a leader like that, and I think even over his years as prime minister, he has proved it, that regardless of what his detractors may say, he has shown a great and infinite capacity for grasping subjects, retaining the important part of, whatever has to be spoken, whatever be the subject, get the right kind of preparation done, and appear to be a real expert wherever you are, regardless of who is with you. Alone, by himself, he's able to handle it. And that's a great thing. He handled the entire Ram Mandir inauguration without a single cabinet colleague of his sitting with him. And normally anyone else would have been nervous. He's also human. He's not, but he's able to handle. And I think that's a great. So those were the things I kind of focused on. I'm not really talking on politics here, but as an individual, we can all learn on how to be up to date with facts and figures, how to be up to date with information, so that you don't have to keep asking around for anything.
No, he's keeping the numbers. I think that's his main play. He's very good with numbers, and it's there at the top of his
And I
head.
think he has a good memory. He has a sharp memory.
And imagine talking like this only 6 months away from the election when you guys met him. I suppose that gives you, I think, the mindset and, keeping things differently in different
compartments. I think he
compartments.
already knew that he was going to be the prime ministerial candidate for BJP, or he was working with it. But there was no such, he was purely Chief Minister Gujarat speaking in favor of Gujarat. Today, you don't see that aspect of his at all, because he's talks like a national leader. He doesn't talk Gujarat or any one particular state. And that's a very good achievement he has.
Yeah, I totally understand. And coming to another person in your, number of celebrities that you've touched, people of immense prominence in the society, is Padma Bhushan Sudha Murthy ji, the noted educator, author, and philanthropist. Her connection with simplest of people, I suppose, and her simplicity, as you mentioned, in attire and speech is definitely unbelievable. You met her several times. You even had the opportunity to visit her daughter's wedding with Rishi now, the Rishi Sunak. And you also say in the chapter on her that the ability to remain ordinary in extraordinary circumstances is a great trait. So tell us more about her. I can never get enough of her. I'm so much in.
Yes. I mean, she's even, from the time I met her to today, she's probably even blossomed out more. And she's, more people know of her, I think, because of the Insta and
her books,
her books and her speeches. So I think it's far more now. And if I had to write about her today, I might even, but I was restricting myself to my meetings with her when we were working with universities. She was a top industrialist's wife. Herself, a very, very qualified, and definitely had a big role in whatever happened with Mr. Narayan Murthy and Infosys. Then she headed the foundation. She went into philanthropy and social work, but she was also committed to education. To have we see a lot of these hi-fi businessmen, women who are wives, who are socialites. They dress well, they have the greatest, they like to demonstrate their jewelry and their diamonds and their flashy homes and cars. But here was a woman, wife of an equally successful big man, who wanted to work with universities. She wanted to get nominated, like many ordinary, professors and others do, to syndicates of universities, so that she could sit in those meetings and, from the inside work to improving education, and especially higher education in Karnataka. That was the one main area where we both interacted. And then, of course, her whole focus on empowering women, and her focus on skilling women and working with them. We both walked into that place. She was simple. She went in, you wouldn't have ever imagined that this is Sudha Murthy that you're walking in with. So that way, she was extremely simple. Whether she was attending one of the Raj Bhavan banquets with the President of India around, where, all the hoi polloi of society was available, she still remained in her simple uh, avatar. And when she came into these kind of places where she was talking about university matters, she would come and sit in front of me and get agitated. This is what the vice chancellor said, and I don't agree with this, and this is what we should be doing. So, somebody who's not there just in name. She was not just a name to give some kind of weight to, a lot of these nominated MPs and so many others who sit nominated on various boards are just there in name. But here was someone who was literally working at the grassroots, literally working with all the syndicate meetings, trying to give very, very valuable suggestions, even arguing and fighting with vice chancellors if they were not correct, bringing those points to the governor. She would want to meet the governor. I have to meet him today. I've just come out of the meeting and I think this was something wrong that was done in the university. I have to meet him right now.
My
So,
God.
that kind of passion for someone like her, she would come, she would just get into her car, drive down and sit in my room and wait for governor to be free, and then go in and tell him this is what happened. So that kind of was something which impressed me a lot, and which is why I thought Sudha Murthy I have to include. Also because she's such an inspiration today to so many. Her books and her entire persona has increased in such measure, rightly so. And it was nice that I had this opportunity with her.
Absolutely. I mean, our children are blessed. I mean, so much of grounding she would have given them and not let them fly in the sky with so much of money. And you can never feel that once you meet her or any
Absolutely. She's
member
an
of family.
Yes, yes. She was like a typical South Indian housewife, sitting in the same house in Jayanagar all the years that they had their uh, all the fancy stuff. They never moved their home. They never moved. She never changed her attire. She never did anything to kind of,
She
add
doesn't
on
shop.
the.
She doesn't
Yes.
shop. She doesn't take anything
No, she doesn't
extra.
shop. She
They've
doesn't.
recently started traveling in business. I mean, hats off to this family. It's so much of things to
Absolutely.
learn from them.
Absolutely. And I think the same thing with Mr. Narayan Murthy also, but
Yeah.
I could add both
Both
of them. So.
There are chapters on Azim Premji and Kiran Mazumdar Shaw also, and I recommend everyone to read. We cannot today discuss all the chapters. You have to order this book and find out more about it. But having said that, I would say that, I mean, it seems you've had obviously innumerable encounters. We are now coming towards the end of the conversation because we have around 5 minutes left.
Time.
So how did you really shortlist who's going to grace your book? And that would have been a very, very difficult process for you because the kind of thought makers, change makers, visionaries you've had in your life by way of profession, by way of, meeting, being so lucky to have met them, observed them. So how was it? And what really common leadership traits that you saw in them, you thought that these are the ones that I'm going to really put down in this book of yours. I will show everyone. I hope you can see this.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes. Thank you, Neeta. It was difficult. I mean, not that I've met so many that I had to shortlist. I had about 45, 50 people whom I thought deserved to be, who were of that caliber, that people knew them, because there's no point in talking about leaders or local leaders of Karnataka, or, who are also some of them very, very impressive, no doubt. But I wanted it to be people who were nationally, internationally known, because the whole idea was to kind of say that, not to say that I met them, but to say that these are all people sitting in those kind of places, not because they have some extra pair of eyes or horns on their head, but because they work or they behave or they've kind of function in a manner which we also can imbibe. Leaders are, of course, they all say leaders are born, but I still feel that leaders can be made. And it's far more important than your birth, which is an accident, that you work on your skills, work on several facets of your life. Uh, I think even somebody like Smriti Irani, for example, is a wonderful example of how she has molded herself from her coming into the glamour world, then becoming an actor, then coming into this politics, learning to become a seasoned politician, articulating subjects so correctly. So these are all things you work at. These are not things you are born with, or it doesn't immediately come to you. So I think every one of us, especially this is for the younger generation, the youth of today, the children of today, that learn from what you see around you, because nobody becomes a leader and a leader can be a spiritual leader. He or she can be a social worker. He or she can be an actor. He or she could be a podcast presenter, an influencer like yourself. Anything. Be a leader in your own space. Leader is anybody who takes initiative, who has an organized way of disciplined structure in their lives, and is able to keep their functioning in a very systematic manner, so that they are able to achieve more, able to look at more responsibilities, and reach out to take on more responsibilities, take on the initiatives, and bring some matters to fruition. That's a leader. So basically, that's not something that you have to be born with. You have to learn to cultivate it. And that's why I felt that let me look at those kind of leaders who universally. So I think Abdul Kalam, for example, was an absolute no-brainer. Also because I had lots of interactions with him, and because I learned a lot of things from him. Pranab Mukherjee, I kind of brought in as a introduction. There were a couple of world leaders whom I couldn't bring in because of the current situation in those countries. We had interacted with them in the Raj Bhavan, but I didn't want to bring them out. The Sultan of Brunei was a surprise inclusion. I wouldn't have included, but I thought the richest man in the world coming, sitting in army fatigue and eating one chota sa, being so frugal in his ways and in his dress and in his speech, in every way he was frugal. So I was like, you were expecting this very, very lavish kind of
extravagant person.
Yeah, extravagant, flamboyant thing. And here is somebody who's so different from what you expected. So I thought that was also a good way to say, wear your wealth with sense and responsibility. You may be the richest person, but you're also a leader. You're also, remember and see where you are, behave in that manner. Excuse me. So I think this is the main shortlisting that I did. And I did want to cover different, male, female, different eras, generation. Sorry.
It has been so wonderful talking to you today, and knowing about. I was fortunate enough. I was fortunate enough to be in your book launch, and I heard you talking there too, and you were speaking with so much of passion on that day too, like you did today. And I really recommend everyone to definitely read this book. There's some very important leadership lessons told in very, very simple language. It takes only very, very less time to go through this book, and keep it on your bedside and keep on going through the important points. Thank you so much, Sharada. It's been.
Thank you so much, Neeta, for bringing out this episode and for having me on your show. And thank you for asking so many relevant questions and really bringing my book to life right here. I didn't expect that you would have read it with such detail. So I'm really honored and touched and overwhelmed at this whole interview. Thank you so much. God bless you. And let's give more success to your podcast and to all the activities that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your blessings. And
thank you
everyone.
all.
Thank you for tuning in today, and do subscribe to our channel, Lterature Series, so that more and more people can watch such wonderful interviews like we had today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.